YouTube, and it looks like we are.
Here we go. Now we're live streaming. Hi, everyone. Welcome
Hey,
to the Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, Star Wars Rebels Revisited.
welcome, welcome. So good to see everybody again.
As you were joining us, we were talking about shopping, the most important thing going on in the world right now. Star Wars, big news actually. Star Wars Celebration announced tickets, and there's merch for sale. And I still don't have my merch from Star Wars Celebration 2022. So,
That's dropping this week, so get excited.
I've got to get my pins from 2022, Rebels related pins, and then whatever the merch will be for Celebration 2023. I need to look at the list, but we wanted to lead with that news beat. And of course, we'll give everyone a few minutes to join, and then we'll jump into the discussion. Tonight's discussion is all about Obi-Wan Kenobi, which if if this show banner didn't give it away, I got like Bowie over here, so close enough.
Oh my God,
right?
I love that so much.
This is a non-licensed situation over here.
But it is fantastic.
Thank you.
I got this at Celebration, so I love the fact that they had meme shirts this year. It was awesome. So visible confusion.
I can't believe they did it. I really can't believe they did it, because like I'd heard rumors they were going to do meme shirts and all that type of stuff, and to then see it actually happen, I was like, because the prequels have been so memeified. Like they're everywhere, especially the Anakin and Padme in the grass. That's my favorite.
The describe the prequels in 3 words. Anakin, calm down. Yeah, that shirt was amazing, but they didn't have it in my size when I went up there. So hopefully they have it this week available in the merch shop. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, we'll see what merch they put up for sale this week. So good evening, everyone, or hello there.
Hello.
I'm glad we got the hello there. I got to tell you, I know that it was that moment that like, have you seen this other meme with everyone in the bar cheering at the big screen on the TV, and they just keep inserting new media into the big TV?
Yeah.
And so when it says the hello there, like the bar goes crazy.
That was all of us from the comfort of our beds, couches, whenever we were watching, like definitely.
I'm glad they saved it for the final episode. In some ways, it was like the right time, because it also indicated that he's like back to his old self. Like when we first meet him, he is a broken man. So yeah, it was good to see him get there. I see people are joining in. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Welcome. Happy Monday.
Hi, Jennifer. Hi,
Jeff Scooby and Spencer.
And Spencer and Scooby.
I heard Spencer gave us a little shout out earlier today on the Intergalactic News Desk, which
Thank
I always miss. It's during work hours on the East Coast time. So I catch the news like the following day or whatever it is. I try to do it before the show, but we were furiously writing more show notes because there was just so much to unpack in this final episode.
Oh, yeah. It was a massive episode. And I know people are like, oh, it was fan service, but you know what? It made me feel good. And people who were like hardened, staunch, against any rehashing of the prequels or the stuff between the OT, they absolutely loved this episode. They couldn't say anything bad about it. So I'm relieved at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I think fan service done correctly is called payoff. I think we got a lot of payoff in this episode. I don't think it broke canon. In fact, Star Wars Explained did a whole video about how this episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi didn't contradict A New Hope, and made it very clear based on the exact dialogue and exact moments of how it didn't actually contradict. Sometimes it extrapolates. Sometimes things are from a certain point of view. So we'll get into that. We wanted to give everyone a couple minutes to join because we did want to make an announcement at the top of the show for everyone who might not have seen this. But I do want to touch upon this before we get into the meat of the Obi-Wan Kenobi finale wrap up. This is meant to be an escape, a time for us to be fans and geek out together and enjoy each other's company and sort of escape like the craziness of the real world. But it's been like a tough week, a tough weekend, a tough month. Things are not going great in this country in a lot of different ways. And I think we all feel like from the Supreme Court ruling against women's health choices, particularly vulnerable at the moment, and a little bit scared and a little bit helpless and hopeless, which has been a running theme of Star Wars for a long time. Like, what do you do in the face of hopelessness? So luckily, when I woke up Saturday morning, Star Wars fans they always come through. They never disappoint. There's a lot of talk sometimes about toxic fandom. I think that's nonsense, and there's some bad YouTubers who give us all a bad name. But the real Star Wars fans, and I hate that phrase, but there are some great Star Wars fans out there, and they created this fundraiser on GoFundMe. It's called What Choice, and it basically quotes Jyn Erso straight out of Rogue One. It was started by Rachel L. and McDowell organizing to benefit the National Abortion Federation, and we wanted to note this at the top of the show. They are collecting money for this organization, and they quote. I'm going to quote Jyn Erso for you and just read it straight from the GoFundMe. What chance do we have? The question is, what choice? Run, hide, plead for mercy, scatter your forces. You give way to an enemy this evil with this much power, and you condemn the galaxy to an eternity of submission. The time to fight is now. And it goes on to say that everyone needs to get involved, get interested, donate money if you can. So if you can, we would like to ask you to take a look at this fundraiser. If you can make a donation, that'd be great. If you can share the donation link, that would also be fantastic.
I can put it in the chat for them.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
If they've crossed their fundraising goals multiple times over now. It was $5,000 and they have crossed $40,000. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So during this type of environment with everything going on, if you can give this a read, give this a look, reach out to your representatives. And we always say voting is important. Getting involved in state and local elections is important. Being civically active is important. All of those things. You have to be a participant in your government. And when it does feel hopeless, find the people who are helping.
And it feels like it may not affect you right now, but this is proof that it may not affect you right now, but it will affect people in your life in one way or another, be it a child or a sister or a mother or a friend. Or it doesn't even have to be someone you know. It's just common decency to look out for each other as a human being and make sure that we're all okay by helping where it counts, because silence is complicity. And you don't want to be a part of that. We have to speak up, because this affects women. Take up a huge part of the population. I'm sorry, guys. It's true. And when a huge amount of the population is in danger, this is dangerous for all of us, because you never know with your health and everything what can happen. When a huge chunk of the population is in danger, something must be done. So give what you can, get educated. Yeah.
I always like the quote that no one's free until we all are. I'm paraphrasing. But we all do need to look out for each other. And I think that's what I love most about the Star Wars community, this particular Facebook community in general, too. I know I do a lot of reading and not commenting and scrolling through all the posts and seeing how kind and loving and supportive everyone is within this Facebook community. The group that Spencer and Dave and Jeff and everyone else on the admin side have built with everyone who's watching this or just is going to see this post in some way, shape, or form. The community is amazing. We saw the wedding proposal on there, the cosplaying together, the sharing this saga together, talking about their favorite characters, trading product, giving people swag, doing things to help people if they're in financial need. I've seen a lot of great stuff happening.
This is a family.
Wonderful to see.
This is a true family, and we fight for family. Yeah. And I'm so grateful to be a part of it. I'm so grateful to know you all. And I just hope that such obvious corruption can be stopped, because it only hurts. It does not help.
Yeah. And it's such a weird way to end out Pride Month too. Not that we were on a high point, 2020, 2021, 2022 have not been zenith points in life or anywhere, but Pride Month was feeling really fun. But I will tell you, Sunday felt like a real protest. It felt very 10 years ago, which is not great. But I'm hoping that there's motivation to, it's to light the fire under you to, try to make a difference. So yeah, it definitely had a different feeling this year.
It
and
really
with that,
did.
I should say Happy Pride Month to everyone. It's
Happy
almost
Pride.
over. We only got a couple days left. We're doing a show next week for 4th of July, and it's going to be a watch along of Empire Day. It's going to be a pre-record because it is 4th of July, and we're not expecting you to change your 4th of July viewing plans. We're going to do a pre-record so you can watch it at any point. And I think we're going to get more political on that show because it is about Empire Day, which is celebrating a holiday where the government doesn't treat you like a citizen or a person. And we see it through the eyes of Ezra and the rest of the rebels. So I think that one is going to be a
Huge.
fireball of an episode because I've already started writing notes over here. And Ashley and I have been telepathically communicating about the things that we were going to say in that show. So that will be the one to watch, kids.
Yeah. It's not, well, it's not really an escapism if real life is suddenly mirroring your entertainment, and we're going to do our best to delve into it and discuss that episode
and still make it fun, and we'll talk
still
about
make
Ezra.
it fun.
Yeah, and we'll connect to the real world. Yeah,
absolutely,
exactly. This one though, we're gonna get back on track and do Obi-Wan. We wanted to put that at the top of the show. We wanted everyone to be aware, if you're capable, making a donation or just getting involved or retweeting, just reading about what's going on. Be aware of what's happening in our government. There's a lot happening. And then we're going to talk now about the end of the Obi-Wan show. And I'm hearing now again that there won't be a season 2. So it comes and goes. It's this push and pull of they told us it's a mini series. And then they were teasing maybe we need another season. And now that I've seen it end, it's I kind of don't think it does. It was great. I loved it. But do we need a second season? I don't know. What do you think, Ashley?
Selfishly, I would like a second season, but they ended it smartly enough where they don't necessarily need it. It's just enough to bleed into A New Hope. So either way, I'm happy. I got the ending I wanted for most characters, and I really hope we see a few show up in the future, which we'll get into here with the notes in a second. But
I have some
all
wagers
in all,
to make.
Yeah, over-unders on who's going to be appearing in the next chapter of the Star Wars saga.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I thought this was a very satisfying conclusion to the series. It didn't wrap up every single storyline. And in fact, the ones that you and I were most interested in seeing, what's going to happen to them, we don't even know what the other Inquisitors are up to. So my thought is they're all still alive and they're all doing their thing and more stories will come. That's my thought for that. But the actual Vader versus Kenobi showdown, which is the thing that they teased in the original press release, that was a good fight. And I thought it ended sort of the right way, in air quotes, the way it kind of needed to end. There was some good callbacks to A New Hope. There was amazing references to Rebels. Oh my God, the split mask thing. Can we talk about that? Tell me what happened in your brain. Did your face fall off the way that Vader's did, the way that mine did in that moment?
The way that Vader's did. Oh my God. So as soon as I saw him, Obi-Wan, just come up with the lightsaber and just bring it down on his head and see the sparks, I'm like, he cut the helmet. Oh my God, he cut the helmet. But it was on the opposite side of where Ahsoka cut the helmet. Yeah. So I'm like, they totally ripped off Rebels. I'm just sitting there kind of pouting a little bit okay, Filoni's ideas are good, but why are you repeating them here? But I can kind of, and I've seen people talk about this in the meantime since the episode has aired. Ahsoka cut the right side, Obi-Wan cut the left side, and Luke took all of it. So he was the one to get through to Anakin the most. And that's why he was able to remove the helmet. So that idea, I know it's been bounced around, but it really does absolutely nail that whole scene. And you get to see the lighting choice in that scene. Oh my God, between the red and the blue lightsabers, and how Anakin still has a touch of blue mixed in with the red until he just says, oh, sorry, I
killed him.
Killed him.
Yeah.
And it just powerful.
The dual layer voices too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Super well done. Just like Rebels, where they took Lanter on top of James Earl Jones. And then this one was Hayden over the, I guess, recreated James Earl Jones. I already forgot what the program is called, the rereader or whatever it is. The reprogrammer, the robot version of James Earl Jones on top of Hayden's voice.
I have a question regarding that. Now, do you think that Hayden did all the lines for Darth Vader and they just used an emulator to kind of use James Earl Jones's voice to deliver them. Like kind of like have you a voice like, you know, auto tune or whatever, but James Earl Jones voice and having Hayden delivering those lines. What do you guys think?
Yeah, tell us in the comments what you guys think. I have a thought on this. And I hope they give us like a Disney gallery or whatever on the Obi-Wan show, because I'd like to see some of those behind the scenes tricks. They don't give away everything, but they did credit the company in the credits of who recreates the voice. My assumption is like there are some words and lines that James Earl Jones has spoken as Darth Vader from the movies that they can pull in. That's easy enough. And then you get the rest of his like dictionary from across like all of his other acting roles, right? Easy breezy. Right. And then you throw it into the program. And because it's Vader and it's sort of like computerized already, it actually sounded really good. Unlike, I think, Mark Hamill, which actually sounded too much like Siri, where like the enunciations were not in the right places. Like, you know how Siri like mispronounces a word or like emphasizes the wrong word in a sentence because you don't know how the sentence is supposed to flow. Like that was the same idea.
A little more robotic.
Voice. Yeah. Vader, on the other hand, already has like a lot of those weird like bleeps and bloops sort of like mixed in because it is sort of through a helmet. But my personal suspicion, and if I were running the show, not that I know anything about film production, I would have Hayden record every single line and then decide which one of the Vader ones gets overlaid with it to then make the seamlessness work. Like you'd almost want him to record every word and then see how many of the Vader ones you can swoop in, and then you sort of blend them together. It's almost like creating a painting where you need all of the yellow and all of the red to make the orange, right?
Right.
That's how I would think it happened. Well, I don't know if we'll ever know though. Disney keeps a lot of that stuff very close to the chest. I thought it was good though. The execution was
wonderful. Great. So good.
How does especially that compare in your mind to the Ahsoka moment?
I felt like there was a little more pity with Ahsoka because obviously he loved her as a sister, as a Padawan, and he had some guilt there with her leaving the Jedi Order. And then obviously we know since then and the final episodes of Clone Wars season 7, where he sees her again and she still kind of keeps him at bay. So he still had some anger at being pushed away by her, I feel. So when you see him as Anakin and it's revealed as his face at that point in time, he's like, Ahsoka, like he just, it triggers that part of his brain that isn't damaged by hate or by the Sith. And it's quickly overwhelmed when, you know, the dark side takes over. And I felt that had a more emotional impact because it was someone that I know Obi-Wan's his master, but I felt like that hit a little deeper because he helped raise her and he kind of saw it from Obi-Wan's perspective with him. So that's why there was a lot more hatred when his face was revealed by Obi-Wan, because a little bit of the blue was in with the red and then it was just straight red immediately because he felt betrayed. He felt like Padme's dead. You left me to burn alive. You know, you need to be destroyed. I need to end you.
Yeah. And according to the comics, Vader had been fantasizing about that moment of burning Obi-Wan in a fire for a while. So then when he finally does it, it's sort of a wish fulfillment that he had been planning. He's never thought about hurting Ahsoka like that.
Right.
He has a lot of anger and a lot of hatred toward Obi-Wan. And then when Ahsoka and him reconnect, like I don't even know if he was really even looking for her. If we think about like the Inquisitors chasing down people, the only reason I think they started going after Ahsoka in season 2 of Rebels is because she kind of revealed herself, right? Like as the fulcrum and became visible. But like Vader wasn't chasing her down the same way he is like actively pursuing Obi-Wan. By the way, like, why is everyone so obsessed with Obi-Wan? It was very Regina George Mean Girls. Like, why are you so obsessed with me? Between Darth Vader and Darth Maul, like they can't get enough of Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and I think also with Ahsoka, he thought she was dead. Like he found her lightsaber at the crash site.
Good call.
And in Clone Wars season 7, the Victory and Death, all he had left was those lightsabers and all those bodies buried in the ground. He thought she was gone. And that's why he takes it with him, because it's like, this is the piece of her. Yeah.
Do you think he knew? Or do you think he actually thought she was dead? or do you think he knows Ahsoka and this is a setup? Like she buried everyone else. The the convoy is flying. In my mind, he knows she's still out there. I immediately thought like he knows that she's not dead. Like can't kill Ahsoka. Like they already tried. Like on Mortis, she died, right? Like is she like kind of immortal? Even he couldn't kill her. She was pulled through a mirror. And he didn't know what happened. Like Vader must be like flabbergasted, right? Like
beating me. Yeah.
So it's kind of funny when I think about now, like the life and death instances that Vader has with like Obi-Wan. He slices through Obi-Wan and he disappears, right? And Vader doesn't know that like the Jedi figured out how to like live beyond death, which was the thing he was promised as a Sith. And then Ahsoka like literally vanishes from his perspective on Malachor, right? So similar situation, I guess chronologically first,
right
before that happens with Obi-Wan. And then he just leaves. He's like, all right, I guess that happened. Like if I were him, I'd be scratching my head for days. And then you find out the son is alive, right? Like, oh wait, I have a son and he's alive in between A New Hope and Empire. He must like his brain must be exploding on a regular basis.
Right. And if he wasn't so clouded, I feel like he's clouded a lot more by hate when it comes to Obi-Wan, and with Ahsoka, whether she lived or whether she died, he didn't feel like he felt like he betrayed her instead of the other way around. So there was a little more guilt, and he was just like, okay, she didn't want any part of this. She wasn't out to kill me. It was just defense. And I think
he feels guilty for the choices that Ahsoka made. Whereas like he blames Obi-Wan fully for what happened to him. He takes no responsibility in that. So none. I guess until the end when he's like, I killed Anakin Skywalker. And I'm like, okay, I guess you got to own it at that point. Like he's too deep in. There's no coming out of it at this point. I will say that was a scary moment. I thought like horror movie wise, like lighting, dialogue delivery, framing.
Those contacts. Like, oh my God. Yeah,
it worked. That whole scene really worked. And even though we've seen something very, very, very similar in Rebels, it still had a lot of weight to it. And I thought it was indicative of like how the characters would respond exactly in that moment. And Obi-Wan just sort of leaving him there. Again, it was pity. Like just felt like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to leave you behind now. My friend is dead.
Like I have nothing left to fight for after this. I don't know why I'm pursuing you. I don't know why I'm fighting you. There's no hope for you. Let you go. But also in that scene, the amount of strength in the Force that Obi-Wan possesses not only to save himself from Vader's rock barrage in the hole, like holy crap, like
the high ground,
so much high ground on top of Obi-Wan in that scene. And just I know I've seen it come up. I've heard like friends say it, like Obi-Wan would never ever, he's a Jedi, he would never ever use the Force to attack somebody like he did with the rocks. He wouldn't just lift the rocks and throw them. And that's not the Jedi way. But you gotta understand, he's going up against the Sith Lord. Like it's a big thing. And it must be at all costs, like at all, you must stop him. And I know Mace used the Force to some degree against Palpatine, and you do what you have to do to put a Sith Lord down. And I don't fault Obi-Wan for that.
No, that's how Obi-Wan killed Grievous. He like used the Force to pull apart his chest plate before firing the blaster at him. Like I mean, how could you not? Like they Force jump all the time. Their skills, their piloting skills are very Force driven. The Force is going to be used forcefully by both the good guys and the bad guys. It's just how much restraint do you show? Like in this case, like he could have killed Vader. And he actually showed restraint. So I would argue that like he was still behaving within the confines of the light side of the Force, right? It was defense, but also defense enough where it's like, all right, I broke his chest box, I sliced his helmet, like I could have sliced his head off at that point. He seemed pretty defenseless. And I already saw a thing where it's like Obi-Wan's the real villain of the entire original saga because he could have killed Vader right there. And I was like, all right, like we know where we are in the series. Like this is a prequel. Like he couldn't kill him. That would make no sense. Like let's be realistic about production order. And let's not attribute that. Also, I think he made the right choice there. Like, I don't think that Obi-Wan wanted to take his life. I don't think that was something that he was ready to do. And he needed to return to the light side. That wouldn't have gotten him anywhere. What we found in the long run is that like when you're revenge obsessed, which the whole theme there, with all four of the major Force wielding baddies in Star Wars that appear in this show, right? And across like so Reva, the Grand Inquisitor, Darth Vader, and Darth Maul or Maul
Yep.
all follow down the path of like revenge and anger. And while it kept them all alive when they were all almost killed, it ultimately got them killed because what Darth Maul chases down Obi-Wan, killed in the desert, right? Reva chases down Luke and everyone and gets punched in the face by Aunt Beru, which we're going to come to that later because man, that was awesome. Darth Vader dies eventually through Luke. He gets beat to death by Obi-Wan, basically. And yeah, it's and the Grand Inquisitor ends up dying on outside of Mustafar, but he got stabbed right in the chest, on his little mission. Like it is, I guess the moral, right, is like chasing revenge doesn't really get you anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Vengeance only gets you so far, and your life becomes entirely consumed by revenge instead of finding peace within yourself, as you'll see in Maul, especially culminating in Twin Sons. He had a lot of hate and a lot of revenge for Kenobi, for what happened in Phantom Menace, for what happened later on Mandalore, and he just wanted to destroy Kenobi any way he could, and he still wouldn't have gotten that peace. It totally blinded him.
Yeah, and he made a lot of bad decisions because of that. Like, why are you going to Tatooine? Like, why are you going there to chase down Obi-Wan? Like, it just leave the man alone. Like, and go run
Darth
your
Vader
empire.
Tell you what happened to him?
Yeah, like nothing ends well on Tatooine. That could be the other like.
Jakku, Tatooine. Oof. Why does everybody want to go back to Tatooine?
Exactly. There we go.
Spencer brought up a good point. What about Obi's fighting using Anakin's moveset?
Yes.
That fight,
of course,
was awesome.
We all make fun of the George Lucas, it's like poetry, it rhymes. But then when they do it, we all clap, right? We're all like, oh, it does rhyme. Because the thing we like about Star Wars is I think the iterative, like circle moments where it's like, oh, this thing sort of happened before, oh, it's happening again. And I actually think that's an interesting lesson in world history and politics and everything else, is that a lot of the same stuff happens over and over again, and you have to learn from what happened prior to deal with the current situation. And it's like, it's almost an infuriating lesson because it's almost as if no one learns their lesson, but Obi-Wan was ready. And that little twirl move when he moves the lightsaber from his right hand
to the left behind the back.
What the training that must have happened to make that one little move work, because I rewound it like 6 or 7 times. It's like, there's no way that actually worked.
It wasn't just me.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I thought that was one of the coolest moves on screen. And he just looks so smooth and like confident. Like he had all the he got his groove back, right? Which is like what the whole point of the show was, right? We meet him at his most hopeless moment, and by the end of it, he wins in the battle with Vader by reaffirming his commitment to the light side of the Force. The way he gets there is helping other people. He lets the path, everyone else on the path, escape, and he diverts Vader away and he almost uses Vader's anger and hatred against him and defeats Vader there, and then goes back and saves Luke. Like it's just a great lesson, I think, for the entirety of the series.
It totally was. And I think it's also not only because he taught Anakin all of those moves, but Anakin again lets the rage blind him, and he's just swinging to kill for the sake of swinging. And Obi-Wan's got a lot more finesse and a lot more like focus within the Force to just to go and protect himself and protect Luke later on. Like he's got a lot more riding on it. And what was I watching yesterday? I think IGN has this where they have a sword fighting expert on to talk about famous duels in Star Wars and other movies and shows. And he reviewed this fight scene, and he said it was probably the best piece of lightsaber battle in Star Wars. Like just the amount of defense and protection, and while he didn't always agree with the twirling, leaving your back open like that, so to get sliced, obviously it looked really cool to us, so we we can kind of forgive that, but he was really, really happy with this battle. So it was cool to watch. Yeah. Well,
of course, the moment when he does the I can't do it. which he does in Rebels and Twin Suns. And that's your moment. I mean, knowing what we know he's going to win, right? As I joked last week, the stakes couldn't be lower. We know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But when he does that, when he has that moment where he's doing the old timey pose, we know he's going to win because that's how he beat Darth Maul. It's like it's his power pose somehow, and like things are going to go his way now. So it felt like that moment, like it had been building to when will he look like the Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan we know from like episode 2, episode 3.
Absolutely. And you knew it was on. Like he was not coming to play. As soon as that pose goes up, everyone's like, yeah, right, here we go. And
I will say, as we think about like the top lightsaber duels in Star Wars, the most divisive, I think, is the one from Rebels in Twin Suns. It's on every best list and it's on every worst list. It is truly like the swan dress from the Oscars from Bjork. Is it the worst dress thing you've ever seen or the greatest thing you've ever seen? Right? Like it's all of 15
from a certain
seconds.
point of view.
Right. Like I love that duel. I love when Sam Witwer explains to everyone why it works. I love that Steve Stanton backs up Sam Witwer on why it works. I think Steve Stanton gives an amazing performance as Obi-Wan. I think that Sam Witwer always delivers as Maul, no matter what is happening. He is just the MVP of Star Wars up there with like Ashley. Like you can throw him into anything and he just nails it. That episode, we have to do a watch along at some point, and trust me, guys, we will. I know the VCN did a watch along on Twin Suns before the Obi-Wan show, so we're going to space ours out a little, but we will find a time to get to Twin Suns and give our Rebel specific view on that. But like this felt like this Obi-Wan felt like that same smart, ready, knew what to do, even though it was a very different type of fighting style as the Obi-Wan we see in Twin Suns.
And I think allowing himself to be open again with the Force and to just allow it to kind of feel where the strike was going to come from, and the rage and the anger through Vader into him, directed towards him, it kind of helped also have Obi-Wan keep his focus on this. Like, all right, he's mad.
Yeah.
He's not coming to play. I have to stay ready. I have to stay focused. I have to use all my tools in my tool belt to take this guy out in some way or another.
And he tapped into, like, he released his fear. So I was watching, I'm going to steal this from New Rockstars. By the way, I always plug New Rockstars. They're excellent.
I love them so much.
Oh my God, especially for Marvel. Remember the days of WandaVision when we didn't know what the hell was going on? It was like, New Rockstars, save us. Please tell us what comics we're referencing in this episode. So shout out to New Rockstars and Star Wars.
Thank you, Eric Voss.
Eric Voss is awesome. And then Molly and Alex had a video. They had a couple videos on Obi-Wan. I think every Star Wars channel has, it's Obi-Wan week, right? We're reviewing the series. We're going through the breakdowns. People are finding the little things they find. I love all the small Easter eggs, but like the big takeaway is that Obi-Wan went from fear into hope during this show. And like you see it when he's under the rocks, as he's like struggling to like hold the rocks up with the Force. The voices that are playing in his head are him fighting with Anakin and everything from the prequels and like how when all went down on Mustafar and I was very afraid. And then when he starts focusing on Luke and Leia and he can see the future and he can see like the hope that is coming, it turns for him and he's able to find the light side and able to like push the rocks off. And then he does what people think the Jedi do, right? Float rocks. It's like a running joke in Star Wars of like, what do the Jedi do? They even say it earlier in the Obi-Wan series. And he's like, oh, you mean floating rocks? It's become like this running gag. And he like floats the rocks and then he actually threw the high ground back at Vader, which made
I have the ground, right, Spencer?
Exactly.
That meme he posted earlier today. Oh my God, I died laughing. I have the high ground, Obi-Wan. Well, I have the ground.
I have the actual ground. Gotcha. Yeah. And that's the thing is like Vader was so angry, that he didn't think about the fact that like Obi-Wan will definitely throw these rocks right back at your face. Like Obi-Wan knows what's coming. He's been around longer. He's done this longer than you. Yes, he's been on the run and you should have killed him when you had the chance instead of like being dramatic. Like, back in episode 3, he could have burned him alive or just shot him. He got him in a force choke. So I don't know if we talked about this, but like the Jedi, when they fight, are basically able to put up a little bubble shield around them, almost like what I think about what happens in Dune, where you have protection from like people can't just like force grab you because like you've figured out how to center yourself if you're attuned to the Force to make sure that doesn't happen. Maul does it. Yeah. But for people who are not as good at the Force, or if they're like stunned or something, like we see it in Rebel Season 2 and Twilight of the Apprentice, the way that Maul kills the seventh sister, he levitates her, and he actually wants Ezra to kill her, but Ezra won't do it. So then he throws his lightsaber, which is actually straight out of the video game. It's actually a very cool move, but they build it into the story in a way where he's got all this power over her. Like, she can't even fight back because like her force powers aren't working because he's like breached the force bubble, or for lack of a better word, right? Vader did that to Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Vader did that to Obi-Wan. Like, how is he alive? Yeah, it's crazy. So that for me is like, oh, he was dead, but because Vader had to stroke the ego, like make a big dramatic show of this, like monologue, like all bad villains, right? Like it was ego, and it was anger, and it was dark side. Whereas like if you were a good guy and you needed to end this fight, you could have snapped his neck like real quick. So like just get to the point. And
he was like a cat. He just wanted to play with him for a little while and like torture him. Be like, look, I was tortured. I was burned alive. This is what you get. And just which you don't do. Like, if you're going up against your greatest enemy, you get them the hell out of the way.
Yeah, so, you have to stay focused. And that's what Palpatine took him to task on at the end of the episode. I thought that was great. Put Vader right back in his place. And now I see Vader at a nadir point, right? Like, he let the children of the path escape, and everyone who was involved in helping to build that Rebel Alliance. By the way, I suspect we'll see some of them in Andor. I hope. Please, right? Please. Like, I feel like everything we're doing is building to a larger thing. It would make sense to me if some of those people returned in Andor, we're in that same time period, but he let that whole crew escape, including Princess Leia, which there you go. The rebellion's sort of crushed at that point. Because if you're Bail and Breya, what do you do after that? Right. Like, you go straight to war and you lose instantly, unfortunately. But like, there are a lot of, if he had chased the other ship and stayed focused on task the way the Grand Inquisitor said he should, it would be a very different, series.
Right. It really would.
Yeah.
And I think also that's where he lost focus, because he was so hell-bent at, I'm going to get Obi-Wan. I'm going to go in for Obi-Wan. I have to follow Obi-Wan. And even the Grand Inquisitor called him out on that. Like, you're letting them escape. Hello. And he's like, no, Obi-Wan is all. And he was totally blinded by revenge, totally blinded by hate. And Obi-Wan warned him what would happen. And unfortunately, it put him in a bad place. And having Palpatine remind him, your focus should not be on your old master. It should be on the task at hand. It was recentering him. And he knew that obviously he would arguing with the Grand Inquisitor versus arguing with Palpatine is two totally different things. One you should never do. So he
don't want
he didn't
Palpatine
argue
mad at me. Well, not good. And so I was saying last week that I think the Grand Inquisitor is better in Rebels than he is in Obi-Wan, for sure. However, that scene at the end where he like calls out Vader is awesome. And I'm like standing up clapping for Rupert Friends, like, that's right, Grand Inquisitor. I was like, I'm now very much a fan of yours. But like, I still think ours is better in Rebels. Not
we're a little spoiled
each other, but like, we get so much more content with them. And I'm hoping that the Inquisitorius in general comes back. I do want to see them, and I don't think they should have a big role in Andor because it's not going to be a Force specific show. Right. But I do think that them being out there as a threat, as part of the many arms of the Empire, imposing their will in different ways, including this like secret army of like horrifying supervillains, like, that's scary.
Yeah. And also, let's see, Scooby just said, where is it? Roken and Andor 100%. I agree wholeheartedly. I really hope we see him again. I hope we see, I can't remember the name of the child and his mother who Haja helps. But he's another important character in Star Wars lore. At least he shares a name with a very important character in Star Wars lore.
From one of the Legends books.
Yes. Yeah. So I really hope he sees them again, and that we see them again in Andor, and maybe light a fire under Cassian to join the rebellion. Corran Horn. That's who it is. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Spencer. Usually I'm the guy coming in with like the obscure knowledge. And Spencer is swooping in to save the day. That's what I like about this group too, is like, you all know who we're talking about. That kid. We got him. In the comments. So
save our brain.
But right, like, this is how crazy everything is super connected, right? Like, you can see that Obi-Wan is a piece of a puzzle, right? We're in this weird time period, the time period between 3 and 4, which is where Rebels lives, like closer to 4, but still in the endless in between,
in the interim,
hopeless time period. where Solo: A Star Wars Story lives, where now Bad Batch technically lives, which is right after 3.
Sorry, I love Bad Batch so much.
And I'm excited about season 2. I think now that we've done a lot of this setup, I think we can really start taking names. Like, I think that like season 2 of Bad Batch has so much potential to just explode the universe in a big way. There was so much that had to we had to do a lot of check the box in season 1 of Bad Batch, where it was like we have to blow up Camino basically, which is kind of how I expected like that season was going to end. Right, they're not on the map. Like, oh my god, I said Camino. Camino. There was a lot to introduce these characters, like set up the main conflict of the series, like obviously determine our villains. I think season 2 is going to give us a lot more connectivity to larger Star Wars stuff and show you the early beginnings of the rebellion building, and we'll see more of that in Andor, which I'm so excited about. Very espionage, apparently. I assume that we're going to see Leia in a big way, Bail Organa. Obviously Genevieve is like prominently featured in the trailers. Mon Mothma, we're going to get a ton of that. It's going to be great.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing, and I know it's already been done in A New Dawn by John Jackson Miller, that fantastic book about Hera and Kanan and how they met and how she kind of pulled him into fighting for something greater than our survival as a on the run Jedi. And I really hope we see maybe a little bit more of that in a series. I don't think it will be in Ahsoka because obviously it's post Rebels, but in some way, shape, or form, whether they tie it into the Bad Batch or something else, that would be so cool to see. So I think
we're going to see similar stories too. I think what's funny is I think that Rebels is inventing stuff, and then other places are like copy pasting it with various tweaks. Like the split helmet thing is a great example of like, if you didn't see Rebels, you would think that was groundbreaking, and it'd be like, oh, what a callback to episode 6 where
and that's
Luke
exactly what was
helmet.
in the comments.
Yeah, and I was like, how dare you? They did that at Rebels. So there's little things like that, because I think we're going to see like the Kanan Hera stuff in the book for New Dawn. I think we're going to see Jedi on the run through the path in Andor, because all these streams are going to be people. I think there's going to be indigenous people trying to leave their own planets to escape imperial tyranny. I think you're going to get the espionage stuff. You're going to get people working within the government. You're going to get extremists. You're also going to get Jedi on the run. They wouldn't introduce the path without that leading somewhere.
Right. It's all little breadcrumbs that leads to a bigger prize at the end. And so I'm going to ask you guys, all of you in the chat, and you, Mark, do you think we'll see the Guardians of the Wills in Andor? Do you think we'll see Baze? Do you think we'll see Chariot? Because I love those guys and I would love to see them again in some form.
Everyone in the comment, actually, I think also on top of that, who do you think we will see that we've already met? Because there are other people out there that I think can pop in. I do think we're going to see Saw Gerrera in some form.
Definitely,
right? Like that,
yeah.
Like he's already been in Bad Batch.
And Rebels.
It's funny. Oh my God. So by the way, I don't want to telegraph everything we're doing, but this is a good segue. August is going to be all about the build up to Andor. I believe the release date for the Andor show is August 31st. So I think the entire VCN network will probably, along with every other Star Wars podcast, YouTube, etc., there's going to be some type of countdown to Andor. And for the casual fan that thinks you just watch Rogue One, there's so much more to that, right? Like, you want to watch the Clone Wars and be introduced to Steela Gerrera and Saw Gerrera. You want to watch basically the entirety of season 3 of Rebels with us, by the way. Don't watch with other people, watch with us. We're going to go through all those big episodes. We want to learn all about Mon Mothma and Saw Gerrera and all of the things that get you to that place. I think you should rewatch Solo: A Star Wars Story. I think that all of these things intersect in interesting ways. Bad Batch has Saw Gerrera. So there's a lot to get to Andor. There's even Forces of Destiny episodes that relate to Jyn Erso. So there's content from so many different pieces of the saga that will be like the journey to Andor. And we're still figuring out exactly what we're going to do on our channel, but August is going to be all about the lead up
Andor to August. It's going to happen.
I love that. Yeah. Andorgist or something. We'll come up with like a cool little logo or something before someone beats us to the punch. Now that I said it out loud, someone's going to steal that and make a really nice graphic. Yeah, trademark, patent pending.
No, Jeff is going to make that graphic, and it's going to be amazing.
Right now. because I think that like the Rebels and Rogue One connectivity is so strong, right?
Yeah.
Like as I mentioned last week, like Rebels was the only show on TV when the Disney wave of movies started, and so the connectivity point almost had to land in Rebels, which is why in some cases like there are moments that feel almost like shoehorned in, where it's like, does this actually relate to the crew of the Ghost? Or is it just that the crew of the Ghost happens to be Forrest Gumping their way through the history of Star Wars? Like there are sometimes those moments of like, how did they end up here? But they do make it make sense. And in fact, like the Rebels in the crew of the Ghost have some of the best interactions with Mon Mothma and with Saw Gerrera. So I'm excited, if you have not seen that, to watch that along with us. That'll be really fun. Yeah, and or August trademark. Thank you, Jeff.
They're definitely the ones that also inspire Mon Mothma to pull away from the Senate portion of things and to handle things as a rebellion, a true rebellion. So we will get into that for you guys, with you guys, and it's just amazing to see she realizes that she can't do things the right way, so she's going to do things the rebellion way.
Oh, it's going to be tough. Because think about like the things you need to succeed, to go up against like a powerful enemy, right? You usually need people on the inside in the government trying to make change through the systems, right? We'd call that like the Congress or the courts or whatever it is, like the proper channels. And then you need military, you need espionage, and then there's the extremists like Saw Gerrera, and his whole crew. And there's fighting between those groups of like, what is the right answer? How do you get there? Mon Mothma and Saw Gerrera, like they might be one of the best duels in Star Wars, not fighting, but like their war of words when they like take each other to task about like, and the Jedi say it all the time. It's like, it's all about how we win. And Saw Gerrera's like, you can't win unless you do it this way. Like there is no debating on the how. It's like, you just have to win.
That season. Sorry. That scene in episode, I'm not sure which episode it is. I think it's episode 4 of season 4, where he appears as a projection to the rebellion on Yavin and just takes Mon Mothma to task for basically putting people's lives at risk by trying to do things through the Senate. It's not going to happen anymore. And she calls him out, and he's like, well, there's the senator, there's the leader of the rebellion.
Yes.
So
that's
exactly
is so
cool.
And she becomes public enemy number 1 after that. She's the galaxy's most wanted. There's a reason she's literally public enemy number 1, like a defecting senator who calls out the chancellor or the emperor. Unheard of. So it's going to be really cool to watch all of that with you guys. And I think I think it almost has to be like an all August watch along too, like all the Rogue One episodes. We're figuring this out on the fly, as you can tell. We have ideas, and then we crash the plane and we get there. So
and even if we watch Rogue One itself, because obviously you see Chopper kind of cruising on by, and you hear Captain Syndulla to General Syndulla to blah, 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 I am gonna tell you guys, I lost my damn mind in the theater when I saw that. But it'll be something good, and especially in this day and age with everything going on in the real world, to just kind of have that reminder of like the spark of rebellion can happen at any time to all of us, and we shouldn't be quiet. If something is unjust, you got to take a stand.
I'm seeing a question in the comment from Ron about Rex giving Ezra some secret plans, Mandalorian intel that the Empire didn't even know about. Will that be used in Ahsoka or The Mandalorian? I think that there are so many streams from Rebels in particular that are going to land its way into the next season of The Mandalorian, because especially with Bo-Katan and being on Mandalore, I think a lot of that is going to come to fruition. And I think that Ahsoka is now basically confirmed to be live action Rebels season 5. Like, who are we kidding? So for me, I think any question you have that is, same. I'm in. That's what I was hoping it would turn into. And I think they'll eventually like find Ezra, and then Ezra will be part of the crew. I hope we get Jason Syndulla, because at this point he'll be about 20 years old, if I'm doing my math right. Is that right? I don't know. No, he's younger.
He's much younger. I would say that was 5 years after the events of Jedi Knight, and Ezra taking Thrawn into that portal. So I want to say he's probably about 6 or 7 at that point.
Right, but then if the Ahsoka show is happening, how many years after Return of the Jedi? Is it 5 or 10? He could be anywhere from 10 to 15. So in theory, he could be around the same age as Ezra when we first meet Ezra in season 1 of Rebels. They'll be close. So we'll find out. That could be an interesting parallel. Oh, he's going to say, Spencer's saying he's 16 when the show starts. So either way, we'll break out our Mandalorian calendar and abacus and all, and calculator and all the other math. And obviously, like if he's in the show, they'll confirm his age, or we'll see close to it what it's going to be. But I do hope we get a Jason Syndulla, because he will be a Force user, knowing that he's the son of Kanan. So that will be interesting. But yeah, I think in general, like all the Rebel streams that we think were loose ends or whatever, Filoni keeps tabs on that stuff. It will be ported over.
It's his baby.
Ahsoka
totally.
Yeah.
That's why he has such a heavy hand in Ahsoka. Ahsoka has been his pet project since day one. Like he and George put everything they could into her as a character. And I think having Rebels, which is something else that he absolutely loved and put his heart and soul into, and you can tell, having those pieces joined together it's just going to be amazing and an absolute love fest to the property, and I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think this is hitting in all of Filoni's strengths, right? The character of Ahsoka, the continuing storylines from Rebels. He's now getting into live action in a bigger way. People I think were in some ways shoehorning him as like animation only, and he was like, no, I really want to do live action, and now he's doing it, and he's able to now take these ideas, these stories, these characters, put into live action. As you know, I'm a huge proponent of animation, and I think we need great people to make great animation all the time. But as an artist, like if he wants to pick his medium and he's going to do live action for a bit or forever, great. Find us a great animator too, though, because I want more Star Wars animation. Like there's not enough for me right now.
Having him map out the live action in the sense of storytelling, like you need a good story to get an animated property off the ground. Like if a story doesn't flow, you can tell. And I think that's where his strengths come in live action, because he's so focused on the story that there's no way, like I'm calling it now. There's no way he's going to screw this up, people. So.
No, I'm very excited about the show. I think it's going to be spectacular. And I think we saw, even when Rebels debuted, we watched Spark of Rebellion last week. I was saying it's a good introduction to the series, and I've rewatched it so many times that like you almost forget, unless you're watching with other people, like the things they achieve in those first 2 episodes is very impressive. Like setting up the world, the characters, the main conflict, the villain, the secret reveal of him being a Jedi. They have a kidnapping plot. They free the Wookiees. Like a lot happens, but it feels intentional and smart and
fluid.
Like by the end of it, I'm like, I fully get what this show is. And it then matures a little bit as we go. Like the tone gets a little bit darker, the same way we age, the show ages. We watch it through Ezra, like as he gets older and things get more and more serious. But like the crux of the show is just very much like built from that episode. It's pretty impressive. And the episode we're going to watch next week, we're going to do Empire Day. For anyone who may have missed that earlier on, we're going to do a pre-recorded watch along of Empire Day. We'll flight it on July 4th, but we do not expect you to, adjust your July 4th plans to join us on Monday night. But we didn't want to cancel the show. So we figured we'd watch Empire Day, which is sort of like their July 4th. It's the opposite of Independence Day, right? It's kind of the takeover day. So we're going to watch that, and we're going to talk about the in-universe implications of that and what we learned. And maybe we'll pull that into the real world as well. So I think it's going to be a fireball episode next week.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I couldn't agree with you more with just having it, the implications for the rest of the Rebels and the rebellion itself on Empire Day. Like, that's a huge episode to watch. So I hope you guys join us.
Important stuff is revealed. Yeah. And it's season 1. So we get a lot of really, really important information in that episode. And we see how everyone is screwed over by the Empire in various ways. And it happens on Lothal, which is Ezra's homeworld. So it's actually a great season 1 episode. And I think it's a great episode of the series and an important one. So that'll be a nice watch along. And it's just fitting that it hits on Monday, July 4th. So, and actually, if you want to ask us any questions, if you guys remember the episode, or if you have questions about that episode, throw it in the comments now. We should have said that at the top of the show.
Yeah, definitely.
Left. But even if you, contact us on social media. I don't think we actually usually put our handles in here, but I'm at Darth Von Olin on Twitter and on Instagram. I don't get a lot of messages. So if you message me, I will reply. I will
Yeah.
send you a reply if you ask me a question, or if you have something to talk about on the show. We'll take it into consideration. Or if you have a question for us on the show, we'll answer it next week.
Right, definitely. Drop any questions you might have about the characters, or if you've already seen the Empire Day episode, things like you might want us to talk about while we watch the episode, right here in the chat. We'll read them. We'll go through them next week as we record the episode, and we'll get back to you then. We want to make this as interactive as possible. So
yes, even though it's going to be a watch along or a recorded watch along, I still want there to feel like, you know, we're all watching this together, and then we'll get back to live watch alongs coming after that. I'm looking at the top of the Scooby hit it at the same time. I was like, oh, we're almost out of time, but I did want to do a quick wrap up on final thoughts on Obi-Wan. And a couple of things that I wanted to mention before I forget. One, I am Team Beru crew, like never before. I just want to shout out Aunt Beru, and in particular Bonnie Piez herself. So I don't know how much people might not know about her real life, but she was unfortunately dragged into the Nexium cult many years ago and escaped. So if you guys watched the show on HBO, like the documentary series about escaping Nexium, you know, with Keith Raniere, the women who were branded, it was a whole mess, right? She was one of the first to, like, she's pretty famous, right? Like, she's in Star Wars and she's an actress. They were recruiting specifically like famous people,
Hollywood
and,
people,
going after actors and people with influence. She escaped. She helped her husband escape, and then their other friends, because they had recorded so much video footage for Keith, turned it into a series on HBO, and were able to get this publicly known. And then the trial happened, and Keith Raniere is behind bars now. So, like, she escaped this cult and helped take it down. She is a badass in real life, and there's like not enough good things to say about Bonnie Piez. She is a survivor. I have such respect for her.
Me too.
I had no idea, by the way, like when I was a licensee and she was signing autographs for us, she was in that, and I didn't even know. And yet she managed to get herself out of there. And like, I'm just like tears of joy when I saw her on that thing. I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. And she's alive and she's well and she's healthy. And then she came back and she crushed this. She basically had one episode. And
I wish she had more. I really do.
Yeah.
I really would have liked to have seen, and I know it was part of the surprise, but I really would have liked to have more of a involvement in Luke's upbringing, like, you know, show the kindness, but also show like,
Could that
please,
be season 2?
please.
If we think about season 1 being very much about Leia, could season 2 be more about Luke and Tatooine? Maybe, if they continue down that road. I also think there's also now been yet another meme, because that's all we do now is to escape the world. There are memes. It was showing the charred bodies of Beru and Uncle Owen, and they were like, you know, for a fact that they took out an entire battalion of stormtroopers, and they got the most gruesome death in Star Wars because they killed the most stormtroopers. And then
they had to bring out the big guns to stop them.
There was already like a piece of
kind of like in
made
Mando when they have to like pull up the giant Inferno trooper and just take them all out. I think that's what's happened.
There was another one where there's a piece of art and it was showing from behind Beru and Uncle Owen facing off across like a giant battalion of troopers, and it was like you know, they're gonna defend the homestead. And then there was another one that said those aren't their bodies, like they obviously like killed some stormtroopers, stole their armor, and now they're on the run, and if you need help in the future, just call the Beru crew. And I was cracking up. I was like, that's a retcon I can get behind.
Oh my God, me too. Like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I think that I'm gonna take that in, pretend it's true. And also I do want to see more Bonnie. Canon. I do want to see more Beru. Bonnie. It's our canon. Exactly. Yeah. So shout out to Bonnie. I don't know if she'll see this. I doubt it. Like, people are throwing all the love at her. She's getting her roses finally. And I think that's true for like most of
Joel
the prequel
Edgerton
kids.
too. Like you see what he's willing to do for Luke. Like that, you know, he is ours. Like when he said that to Reva, oh my God, it was just like, because before you just kind of think it's like, okay, this is great. It's another Skywalker that I have to deal with. Oh, this guy is crazy, whatever. But you see him in that shot, he's not Luke is not an annoyance to him. And he and Beru will do anything to protect him. And Oh,
When she
such a
moved
good
the potted
scene.
plant and grabbed the gun and like threw it at Owen, and he was like, he didn't even blink. He was like, got it, babe.
Sawed off
Like, you know this.
blaster out of nowhere.
Yeah, she was great. He was great. I also have deep respect for Joel Edgerton. He
Yeah.
directed this movie called Boy Erased, about conversion camp, so gay conversion camp, and it was brutal. It's just terrible. I watched it at an LGBTQ film festival a few years ago, and it was an incredible movie. And I left like destroyed, which is how a lot of gay movies are, right? Like, you know, we got all the tragedy and all that stuff, but it was based on a true story. And he came to the event and introduced the film, and I was like, that's Uncle Owen. But of course, he's like a big time director now, and he came back to do this show because of Deborah Chow and because of Ewan McGregor. And he wanted to keep the character alive, and I thought he did a great job.
There is so much love. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So much love between everybody who's in this show. And Vivian Blair, oh, she is just an absolute rock star. When she laces up her white dress and her boots and her gloves, and she gets that holster on, I was just like, oh my God, she's such a little badass, and I love her to pieces. I wish.
And the mom with like, I love it.
I love it. I was like, yeah. Love you so much. But she
really
is going to do big things, and
for sure. And so will Moses Ingram. Like that she's not already, but like I think they could build a whole show around her.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really, I know a lot of people were upset about it, but I'm really kind of glad that they didn't kill her off. I was hoping they wouldn't, and I really want to see some kind of redemption, whether she helps out on the path and makes that choice to, all right, I can't go on this path of revenge and rage because this is where I end up. This is where I need to go now. This is how I give my fallen family some peace and myself some peace. And I would love to see that. So Moses Ingram, show up again somewhere, please. She was a rock star. So.
I agree. I would follow a show with her, because the big lesson we take away from her, unlike with Obi-Wan, her hatred got her nowhere, right? She ended up full circle in a bad way. It was like, oh, I'm dead on the floor in the temple at the beginning of the series, and I let my anger bring me to a place where I get stabbed by the same person dead on the floor. Like, it's kind of amazing. I was like, oh, your anger literally got nowhere. Yeah, no. I was like, oh, it's not great. But then she couldn't do it, right? Like, she found the light, which is enough. And, you know, just should she be fully forgiven? I mean, no one really should. Like, I think people need to atone, but hopefully as a next step, she'll go on and maybe she will help on the path, and she'll
like Tala.
The same thing that happened to Tala. Exactly. Like, she didn't realize that she was hurting people at first. She joined, I think I said this a few episodes ago, like it was a legitimate government. People join the military all the time, or join the government for any country. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, am I the baddie? Which that's another meme, right? Like when they do like British history, and it's like, oh, wait, are we the baddies? Like that happens. And it happened to her. She's like, oh no, we've killed these people. I need to make amends for that. And I think that's a great lesson that we see in Rebels all the time too, is people can change. You can find redemption, and you just have to like trust in the light side of the Force, find your hope, you know, and find something to believe in and fight for it. I think that's true in real life as well, especially now as things feel hopeless. Like, let the hope of Star Wars, like this silly fantasy show that we've all made into this very serious thing, like extract the actual lesson.
Grounded
like, don't
in
just
reality.
study trivia. Yeah, like pull in the things you actually need to learn. Like, knowing trivia doesn't get you anywhere, but if you understand the material, and you understand that fascism is a problem, and we all need to take care of each other, and we can join the rebellion in various ways. We don't need to have blasters. Like that's what you need to get from Star Wars.
Use your voice, because sometimes using your voice to speak up for others is the biggest thing you can do and create the most change.
Exactly. And on that, I think that's a great way to end this episode, because we are at time, but we do want to just plug a couple things real quick before we go.
Absolutely.
A lot of stuff's coming up on the VCN. Tuesday is obviously happy hour day. There's usually, I think there was just a unifying force from Sunday where they talked about Obi-Wan Kenobi. So make sure you check out that episode. The Intergalactic News Desk went up today, and the big news, of course, was everything related to Star Wars Celebration. Tickets go on sale this Thursday. Obviously, that's out in Europe. So if you are willing to make an international trip, I hope I will be there. If I'm a licensee, I'm sure that we will be invited. But like,
if I have a print in the art show, I would be there. Yeah, we'll see. I can come work for you.
I already had so many people being like, "Are you going?" I was like, "I don't know." Like, I mean, I assume that all licensees get invited, but this is, international ones are a little bit different usually. But so that's the big news is like celebrations happening this Thursday. As a reminder, we did put the link to the GoFundMe at the top of the chat. If you're able to donate or to retweet the link to protect women's health services across the country. They've already cleared $40,000, which is just amazing. The What Choice campaign, if you Google it, if you don't see the link, if you go to GoFundMe and type What Choice. And then our show next week, it's 4th of July, Monday, July 4th. So we will have a review of Empire Day. So send in your questions.
Yep, season 1, episode 8, Empire Day. So it's very important. It's also really integral to the story, I think, going forward through the end of the series. So if you have questions, obviously drop them in the chat here. If the video goes up later, you can still put them in the chat. We want to hear from you guys. What do you want to see? What were your favorite parts about the episode? Where do you think it will tie into the future of Star Wars? We want to make it as interactive as possible. So if you guys have any ideas, please share them with us.
Yep. And if you do have questions and you want to just send them directly to us, you can poke us on social. I'm at Darth Von Olin.
And I'm at Hate Street Girl. So
I type in Ashley and it auto populates for me. We got to add our little Twitter handles and Instagram handles to our graphic. We'll make Jeff do that and add our Twitter, our social media handles to this so you can easily see us. But
I really think that it's great to have this family and this community. And I just want to say that I'm really appreciative of all of you. And I think if we don't have each other, we have nothing. So band together, look out for those in your life and change the world. Do something positive.
Yes. I appreciate all of you guys. This is really fun for me, because this is also work. Like Star Wars is work for me, but like this is not work. This is fun.
Yeah,
this is great.
Fun.
Being able to hang with my friends in the fandom and people who like I've just met and then became friends. Like that's incredible.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't happen when you're a 40-year-old. Like it's like from what my understanding is, like people end up having to become friends with their kids' friends' parents, and everyone I know like sighs at that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, I met people at a convention and we have all these shared interests and we do a podcast together. Like it's a very like that's not usually the normal thing, right?
And they roll your eyes at you like, why don't you get a real job? And it's like this is the best job.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Never.
So well, we just got a nice compliment. Thank you, Scooby. We're thrilled to be here, and you guys are making it a great show. I love the interaction we have with all you guys. Thank you for coming prepared. We always joke. Thank you for everyone for doing the homework, for watching the show we're talking about, for showing up on a Monday night and hanging with us. We'll do this again next week. We won't see you in real life, but happy 4th of July.
Enjoy your day off and your celebrations. Be safe, protect your pets from the fireworks, and enjoy your families, enjoy your friends.
Yeah, spend time with people you love. Yeah, take care of each other. All right, bye everyone. We're going to say goodnight now. May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.